Rory, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I'm looking forward to this conversation. We're going to be talking a little bit about cold traffic ads, how we can actually use that to generate leads and how people can use that to actually convert customers. But before we jump into that, Rory, you are the co-founder, I believe, of RFS Digital Media.
Founder, but co-owner, if you will.
Founder and co-owner, I apologize.
No, come on. Don't apologize. That's so nitpicky. It's okay. It's okay.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today and what you've done in the past, and a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, so I think the most relevant things are, I've been a full-time digital marketer now since 2016. I fell into the business world sort of backwards accidentally, and probably with severe reservation and hesitation. And I say that because I'm the third generation entrepreneur, business owner, if you will, in my family. And I was actually encouraged not to be a business owner. I was encouraged to go to school, get a degree, get advanced degrees, get a stable job, have a nice salary, and retire happily ever after. And I really didn't know any better until I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which if you've read that book, and I assume you would have, you can understand that I was raised by a poor dad. Despite my parents being entrepreneurs. My background, graduate school, if you will, was clinical psychology. And I read that book in my last year of my doctoral program. And I realized quickly that I didn't want to be an employee. And I really wanted to move into that business owner investor category and develop wealth. So that's kind of the falling into it. Got my doctorate, thought I was going to become a behavioral specialist, discovered marketing, took everything that I learned in psychology, applied it to marketing. Fast forward along the way, I fell into and discovered paid traffic and fell in love with the ability to create advertising campaigns that brought in customers that you could sort of quote unquote control and scale versus more organic marketing efforts. And seeing the multiplicative effect, it was just it was a match made in heaven. And I've been focusing on that now for 7.5 years.
That's awesome. And to be fair, anyone listening to this and anyone that's involved in marketing will know as well, a psychology background is definitely an added bonus when it comes to marketing, because that's what we're playing with at all times, right?
It is. Yeah, it is.
So to get us jumping into the deep end, as it were, cold traffic ads, can you just give everyone that's listening, just in case people don't have or have different kind of levels of understanding, what do we mean when we're talking about cold traffic ads?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I mention, cold traffic and ads, we're talking about Facebook advertising, Google advertising, any type of sort of pay-per-click marketing where you're running an advertisement that you're paying for and you need to get it to convert. And the reason we say cold traffic is when you're running on an ad platform, an ad network, the audience doesn't know who you are. They're not looking for you. They're not interested in what you have, versus what we refer to as warm traffic or even hot traffic. That's list traffic. That's affiliate traffic. That's endorsed traffic. Anytime you send an email and you say, hey, go check out my buddy Chris, his podcast is amazing. They've already moved on. If they've clicked, they're not cold traffic because they've just been told, go check out Chris. He runs a podcast. He's amazing. Anybody who clicks psychologically is coming over already with their natural defense mechanism lowered, with their skepticism lowered. That doesn't mean it's completely gone, but it's lowered. And that lowered makes a big difference, because if you think of cold traffic, nobody has told them who you are. They're not looking for you. They're not interested in what you have. They're not even aware most of the time that you exist. And they are ridiculously skeptical, entirely cynical, and you have to help overcome that by building trust very quickly.
I think it's awesome because, again, first and foremost, everyone listening should definitely send out that email saying Chris has an amazing podcast and you should go check it out. I'd really appreciate that for sure. But the idea for a lot of people, they don't realize that we're always looking to build relationships. And actually that online referral kind of basis is very much like it used to be in person, or very much just the next generation or the next development of what it was like in person. So when you ask your friend
Mm-hmm.
who's really into his cars, what car should I buy? That recommendation, like you said, doesn't remove all barriers to the purchase, but it definitely helps you to sort of going in with that idea that this makes sense. I've had somebody tell me and kind of explain to me why this is a good idea, or they give me that kind of reaffirming belief that actually this is the right step for me. And I think that's a huge thing. And again, cold traffic, then you're literally, it's the moments when you're interrupting. Well, this is how I'm thinking of it in terms of describing it. It's the moment when you're interrupting somebody's attention from something else. And that can be challenging to get them to interact, right?
Yep. Yeah, and there's actually two elements of it, and I really like how you mentioned interruption. If you look at sort of the evolution of ads, we go back to like just banner ads. Banner ads really were interruption marketing. It's like, when you go to the airport, at least this is, 20, 30 years ago, you walk in the airport and here's somebody trying to give you a flower for a donation. And, hey, do you want this? Do you want that? No, go away. I'm here to get on my flight. That was kind of banner advertising, an interruption, an annoyance. And then what happened was eventually we entered into the era of Google search, which was revolutionary in the fact that it was intention-based marketing. You went and searched Google for a topic and were served an ad for something so incredibly relevant. Now, that's still cold traffic because they don't know who you are. They're not certain what you have to offer. There's lots of convincing, but it was intentional traffic. Facebook, now we go back to interruption marketing, right? Like, people are not on Facebook looking for your product. They're not looking for your service. They're not looking for your widget or whatever it is that you have for them. Most of the people on Facebook go there to interact with friends and family. I often inject anyway, at least here in the US, that a lot of people on Facebook go on to argue with complete strangers, try to convince other people of what political beliefs they have and why you should, which never wins. Like, you never end up convincing anybody. And I think that type of framework or that type of perspective is what people really need to take into account and take more seriously, is the psychology of your, prospect. Your prospect on Facebook is somebody who's already probably really frustrated, really angry, looking to escape reality. And here you come in thinking that, well, a lot of people anyway think, oh my God, I've got this great product and service, you've got to buy it. And there's just this total mismatch. And that's really where, again, we draw on psychology. Is you want to understand your user base. You want to understand who you're targeting and talking to. What do they like? What don't they like? What do they need? What do they want? Then you can worry about coming up with a good ad. And in fact, probably future pacing a little bit, most people go, let's start with ads. No, the ad is the last thing you do. We need to understand your market, your audience. We need to craft good messaging and make sure that it's going to be something people want. And then we can go out and create the ad and move people into action.
It's something that I don't know how many guests have talked about. I should probably go back and re-listen to all the episodes and tick off the amount of times. Starting with your audience is probably the biggest failure that most people that have tried or that have spent money, I'm sure you've heard it 100 times. I definitely have. I've tried Facebook ads. They don't work for me. And you're like that. Well, let's take a step back. Explain to me what you did and how you did it. And then let's try and understand a little bit better about what you mean by Facebook ads doesn't work. And invariably it comes down to that, right? It's there's always an element of who's this for? What do they look like? Who are they actual people? What sort of interests do they have? What sort of demographics, psychographics, whatever else you want to kind of call it. But then also the other part that I think is really important that gets overlooked a lot is the offer and the product itself. You know, the phrase you can't polish a turd comes to mind in the basis of, you know, if it's a bad product, it's a bad product.
Yeah.
If it's a bad service, it's a bad service. If it's something that people don't need or want, it doesn't matter how much you've worked on it or for how long or how much money you invested. You know, the market validates whether or not it's something that people want, no one else.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. I mean, that's, wow. Somebody who finally gets it. Yeah, that's the biggest problem is so many people, oh, I've tried Facebook ads. They don't work. Yeah, they absolutely 100% work. I want you to repeat after me. I couldn't get them to work. Not they don't work. And gosh, we could go off on a tangent about personal responsibility. But yeah, I mean, Facebook ads absolutely works. Any ads really work. It's just a matter of, can you get them to work? And are you willing to put in the work to get them to work?
That's the hardest part, right? Is explaining to people that, and it doesn't even matter. I'd say I've been doing this now for 12 years, running my agency. When Facebook first started, it was fantastic. We got this amazing organic traffic. People just got involved and pages were new and it was fantastic. Like, it was just great fun. Today, obviously, it doesn't look anything like that anymore. But even after 12 years, I will sit there to clients when we're talking about strategy, when we're talking about ideas, and literally I'm throwing things out going, these are the things that I would test. And it starts usually with, these are the 12, 13, 15, depending on how much budget, audiences that I have a hypothesis that these sorts of people would like something like what you're offering. And people don't get necessarily the importance of testing. And I use the word experiment in a few different promotional things that we did. And some of the feedback that I got from people was, no, I want an expert. I don't want someone who's experimenting. And I was like, the best experts in my industry are all experimenting all the time. That's all we do. That's what we try and do to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So from your point of view,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Rory.
No, I was going to agree with you. Please go ahead.
I like the agreeing part as well. That's always nice. I think this is, so basically, again, we've talked about this in terms of the audience. We know what we need to prep in terms of understanding and getting a real understanding. We're not talking about people saying, you know, oh, they live in London and they're 18 to 35 and mainly women. That's not enough of an audience. But once people have identified some audiences, some test audiences, what are the next steps for them in terms of using platforms? And I think if we talk a little bit about Facebook in terms of that, what are the ways that they can stand out and make that interruption slightly more palatable, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And there's a couple different ways to go about that. So when you first said, you know, what's a good way to stand out? My mind immediately skipped the ad and went straight to the offer, which is come up with something compelling. Be different. My business partner and I think we have the domain metoomarketing.com or metoomarketingagency.com with plans of just, you know, making fun of or poking fun at, if you will, this concept that everybody thinks they have this unique product or system, and they don't. Everybody, you know, if you look at, you know, Facebook ads, almost every Facebook ad agency running ads will 2x, 3x, 4x, 10x your ROAS. They're saying the same thing over and over again. There's nothing compelling about that. That's not a unique offer. That's not a way to stand out in the marketplace. So make your offer different. I mean, we ran ads 2 years ago for 3 or 4 different companies with e-commerce training programs, and they were roughly all the same. Nothing unique about them at all. And people, why can't we scale? Well, you're not unique. You're offering the same overpriced high ticket training package. You're offering the same thing everybody else is. You're slapping maybe a different ribbon on it. You're using different wrapping paper. So your offer really needs to stand out and focus on how are you going to help the end user, What do they really get out of it? And if it's, hey, I'm going to help you build a Shopify store, great, that's a commodity. Or, you know, if I'm going to help you build a Shopify store and get your first 5 sales, all right, that's a little bit more interesting. You know, so raising the bar, if you will. If you go back to the ad and what stands out, I mean, I think, you know, we have here I am saying something unique, right? Like, we do things very differently. We take a lot of psychological elements and put them into our ad. So what I mean by that is, the first thing is, you want to figure out, who is your audience? What level of awareness do they have? Do they know they have a problem? Are they actively looking to solve that problem? Then, of course, there are people who don't know they have a problem. Well, you're going to run different ads and send them to different places based on their level of awareness, based on what they want. We always start with what I sort of call for go for the throat ads, meaning that we want to go after the people who are most likely to buy. Because after all, dollar in, dollar out. No, I've yet to meet any business that has deep pockets to go into the negative for a really long time. Very, very few people, very few companies. So you need to identify the quickest path to get sales. And you write an ad that speaks to that audience. And what we can talk about, you know, how do you do that in a minute? You know, people who may be interested but don't respond to that ad, well, you can retarget them with an article. You could also just go out and run traffic to an article and then retarget those people who spend more than 60 seconds on your landing page reading the article. There's so many different ways to do it. So you just need to think about, what is the way to educate and move people to action. If we're talking e-commerce businesses, focus on the product. I mean, that it really is that simple. Put the product in front of people, show them what it is. If you can demonstrate that product, you know, pulling from the infomercial worlds or the infomercial space, if you've got a demonstrable product that you can show actually does something amazing, show it. You know, we had a client that was selling dog nail trimmers. He showed the nail trimmer in action on the dog. He demonstrated that it really was whisper quiet. And through the fact that it was whisper quiet, he was able to demonstrate that it didn't scare the dog. It's a great benefit right there to a dog owner. They're going to click and be interested and hopefully buy. You know, for a webinar, let's go to an info product. We like to create ads, especially the images, that show an outcome. What's the benefit that you're going to get? You know, if I'm targeting business owners, I want to show something with a little bit of class and a little bit of sophistication. If I'm targeting what we call in the industry newbies, and I hate that term, I'm going to show pictures of Lamborghinis, Ferraris, yachts, sitting in a hammock on the beach, because that speaks to those people. Now, I'm glad you kind of nodded and smiled a little bit when I talked about newbies and Lambos. And I mean, we don't do that, because the one thing you need to know is that tends to attract very broke, poor-minded, scarcity-minded individuals, and I don't want them. But in my opinion, it's a great demonstration or illustration, if you will, that everybody can sink their teeth into and make sense out of that. Oh yeah, I can see why showing Lamborghinis would attract people who don't really have a business but want to start one, because they're focused on, ooh, the dream. They're not past that dream stage.
I'm sure you feel the same way, but the amount of, there's no better way of saying it than just absolute con men offering, you know, this one funnel will make you millions of dollars overnight. The amount of people, you know, I was living in the back of a fag packet on the corner of a dustbin in the back of a street, and, you know, my life was awful. And then I did these 6 things, and look, 6 months later, and if you had like the reality version of the same advert, it'd be like that 6 months later, I've borrowed money off my mom and dad, and I rented an Airbnb that's really nice. And I'm taking these videos to try and convince you that you need to pay me money so that I'm not broke. And I'm not going to help you anyway, because I have no way of helping you. The reality of business, and I'm sure you know, and I've been around for 12 years now. I started just before Lehman Brothers went under, and we started the 2008 financial crisis. So that was fun times.
Mm-hmm.
but it's hard work, and it takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes hours. And it's, you know, the dream is always there of this Lamborghini at the end. I don't have a Lamborghini yet, I'm going to be honest. And I'm not sure that if I had enough money to buy a Lamborghini, that I would buy a Lamborghini. There'd be other things that might come up first. But there's something about that mentality, which is, and you said it right, focusing your ads, trying to make quick wins, trying to over promise and under deliver is, again, we're back to the same sort of principle of, you know, if the product isn't very good, there's not much you're going to do anyway. At the end of the day, you can run the best ad creative in the world. It's going to go nowhere.
Yep, exactly.
So really quickly then, there's something I wanted to pick up on now. And you talked about when you're setting up ads, and there are different ways to obviously combine these sort of strategies. So you can send people to an article and then retarget them with a service or a product, whatever it is that you're selling. But something I wanted to ask, and I ask quite a lot of people this, for me, what becomes very important is your sales page, your landing page, what it is that you're actually sending people to. And I've seen way too many people waste way too many dollars, especially on advertising, sending people to their homepage or to a product page that's on the website. And again, you know, I remember talking to Travis Ketchum. He's the founder of Campaign Refinery and Contest Domination. And we talked about it. And I said, how many landing pages and sales pages do you think you've written in the years? And I think his answer was like, oh, it's in the thousands. Like, full stop. It's in the thousands. I've tested everything you can imagine. I've tried everything for every offer, every opportunity, and I kept trying. But this is something that's really important, right? Where that traffic goes once they've clicked on that ad is really important. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. For me, that's just like kind of a no-brainer. That's the basics, right? Like, you have to drive them to a very targeted, specific, familiar landing page. And I'll talk about why I say familiar. It seems like when ads when people first started running ads or becoming familiar with ads, especially Facebook ads, there was this talk about congruence. Your ads, when you click over to the landing page, should make the person feel at home, meaning that the image, the language, the colors, everything should match. And that was a big point for a long time. And it seems like people have totally forgotten about that. I just went through a funnel earlier this morning, and the ad was a video of a very, very vibrant, energetic woman. And we're going to go deeper than just the landing page for this to make a point. But by the time I got to the thank you page, I got a thank you video from somebody else who had no energy, was completely boring, was clearly like staring at the camera, reading off a teleprompter, didn't want to be recording the video. And I'm like, what happened to the person I just bought from? Why aren't those people sitting side by side with the attractive character going, hey, thanks so much for buying. I want to introduce you to this person who you're going to be seeing around. He's very important to the company and he's going to be a big help. Like, edify him, because you've just transferred power and you lost me. And that's what can happen between the time you click on an ad to getting to a landing page. And the simplest way to do it, and it's funny, we have clients complain about this all the time. And I should put an asterisk there saying we have bad clients complaining about this all the time. When we write our ad copy, the first round of copy, almost 99% of the time, will be verbatim from the landing page. Why? Because we want it to be familiar. If they've clicked on your ad and your landing page is the same, there's a really strong chance, that they're going to vibe with what you've got there. But if you go from one headline and one concept that you've sold them on in the ad and drive them to a landing page that isn't congruent, they're going to leave. Or even worse, what can happen is you can go from an ad that sells them on one concept to a landing page that promises them another thing, then get them on a webinar that sells them something completely different. And you're like, you brought the wrong person. So, I mean, gosh, there's so many reasons why you want to have the right landing page. And it all comes down to, again, congruence. You want to have one message. You want to have that message flow in telling a story so that you're bringing the right people into your world to make the right offer.
There's something, It happened to me earlier today, actually, talking to a client, and messaging is something that I think a lot of business owners get really caught up on business acumen or keywords or buzzwords and all this kind of stuff. And I often have to sit there and say, I've just looked at your website. Thanks. Great. Thank you for sharing. I have no idea what you do. I'm being honest. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that we've spoken and that you've talked to me about what you do, I don't actually know what you do. And the reason why is that because you've got, we are high class industry leaders and whatever else and all this crap. I was like, that in what is it that you do? Like, and often the messaging gets lost and the congruency, I'm completely with you, but it starts all the way back at the very beginning, right? Tell people what you do. Make it super simple. I'd like to be able to tell people in 30 seconds, sorry, what I do. And I think every client should be able to have one sentence. They go, this is who we are. That's what we do. And that's literally why you should work with us. And I think that that's something that gets lost. And the idea of landing pages, a lot of people seem to either not be willing to put in the work, and it becomes a real issue because you're like, that, man, it's all right. Like, I've got a newsletter sign up page. I'll send people there. And you're like, that, what for? Well, why would you do that?
Yeah. So it's interesting you mentioned that. I wanted to go in that direction, and then you reminded me of something else. So let's get back to your question of, how important is the landing page, or what type of landing page? You want to drive someone to a landing page that has one singular purpose. If it's to get them to consume content, make them consume the content. If it's to get them to register, get them to register. If it's to get them to do a free trial, get them to sign up for a free trial. I can't tell you how many ads I click on. And again, to be clear, I click on ads all the time to dissect what I think is working, what's not working, for inspiration, so many different things. And I remember I was pretty much pre-sold on a software. I went to their website, I checked it out. I got the ad later on for the website, and I clicked on it again, and the whole ad was about sign up for a free trial. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for my free trial. So I go to the website, and they put me on their homepage, and I have to scroll, start the free trial. In fact, I think in the top right corner where you'd want the button that says start your free trial, I clicked start my free trial. And I assumed it would take me to a landing page where I would opt in and sign up for no. It pushed me down the page to the benefits of a free trial. And I was like, out of principle alone, I'm not signing up. You've made it too hard. You are a complete idiot, and you've made it too hard. Like, I literally came here with money in hand, and you clearly don't want my money. So that's a good example. Another one that you just nailed on the head is sort of, the messaging. And I think you started talking about, if you're sophisticated, this, that, and the other thing, your messaging needs to be sophisticated. The words you use needs to convey that. You don't just say, hi, I'm sophisticated. No, like with ads as an example and a tangent, if I want to show sophistication, I show very elegant backgrounds, like a black background that looks like velvet with gold fillery, or red ropes, or a very old, 18th century library with a library chair. Not one of these, right? This speaks to more modern, technological, a gamer. But if you have a library chair, the velour or velvet chairs with the side head wings, like that starts to speak to sophistication. Much like we were talking earlier about, if you want to track a newbie who only cares about fancy stuff and money, show them a Lambo. They're going to be drooling. So we had a client that came to us and wanted to take a launch and turn it evergreen. And as we went through the intake form, we have the brief talking about, who is your customer? What do they do? Where are they? We want established business owners. Awesome. So we start running traffic. And the feedback, and by the way, let me pre-frame this. Anytime we run traffic, we start with what the client already has working. That's what we call our baseline. We want to be able to compare numbers the best that we can. So if you've got an offer that you're running to a launch, presumably through affiliates, we want to be able to take that opt-in rate, that conversion rate, and compare it to how it goes to cold traffic. So we take everything, we move it over, we come up with some ads, we drive them to the webinar, we get our initial stats. Everything on the front end looks great. We're getting great click-throughs, we're getting great engagement, we're getting people to sign up for the webinar, people are filling out the application, but the sales aren't happening. So I said, okay. Client says to me, well, it's not working. I go, wait, whoa, don't tell me the ads aren't working, the campaign isn't working. What's not working? Well, they just told me everything I told you. Okay, great. So what you're saying is we're getting people to click on the ad. We're getting people to the landing page. They're signing up. They're showing up at the webinar. They're staying until the end. They're taking the action and filling out the application. What is your sales team telling you? Well, we're getting people who are brand new in business and don't have money. Okay, well, that's the exact opposite of what you want, right? Yeah. Okay, so we go back to the ads and we look and we go, yep, the ads talk about being an established business owner. And we talk to an established business owner about their challenges. So it's clear who we're talking to. You get to the landing page, and at the very bottom of the webinar registration page, it says, this is for you even if you're just getting started in business. Red flag number one. Of course you're going to get people, right? Then we go through the webinar and we find 5 times where they say, we can help you even if you have no business and are just getting started. So that's a major disconnect. And it all starts with the landing page. It all starts with the messaging. Your messaging has to be 100% on point, or you're going to screw things up and attract the wrong people.
It's funny because like I've had this happen various times, and the same sort of thing happens with people going, no, we don't put the price of our services online because that'll put people off. And you're going, isn't that the idea? Like, don't we want to put people off? You want to have conversations with people that can't afford your services and aren't willing to pay you X amount, but you don't want to put that on there in case those people that can't afford it don't contact you. You're like that, the congruency, right? Again, and it's always difficult. And I think it's difficult for all of us, right? I'm sure you've had it in a personal project or something you've done for the business. You know, sometimes we think we're right and we kind of go down a path. And until we get to those numbers where we go, right, we're definitely wrong. Let's just can that and start again. But I think it becomes very difficult when people are invested. They feel like they've spent time, effort, money, whatever it might be. And they find that kind of, they take that as criticism when it's not meant to be. You know, if I'm talking to someone, we'll often have conversations where like that, all our packages, pretty much everything we do is on our website. The prices are there, and it's there because we're transparent. That's what this kind of a deal would cost. And if you're happy with that, awesome, let's talk. If you're not, I completely understand. And in fact, we've often had conversations with people where we've gone, we'll give you half an hour time free, and I'll point you in the right direction for some freelancers where you can find some good people, keep the cost down and go with a different option. And I think that's something that, again, you know, making sure that you're congruent, making sure that every step in that process is actually the same. And this conversation that we had earlier about the website that, I couldn't actually tell what it does or what they do. And literally we're having the conversation about their sales funnel at the moment. And I was like, that, to me, it sounds like the biggest drop off is just before you get the call. And I was like that. And by that point, you know, where's the landing page that you're sending people to? And they were like that. No, we don't. We send them 2 links. One's to a video that's over there on the about page. And then this one's kind of buried. And if you look down on the home page, and I was like that, stop. The first thing we need to do is take this, start with, this is why we've sent you here. That's it. This is the reason why. And then we can talk about the features, and we can give them a video, and we can do all of this in a way that means that if somebody's been prepped, like you said, you're priming these people as well. These people are coming from one-to-one outreach conversations. You're priming these people. They're interested enough to say, okay, cool. Yeah, send me a link. And then literally when they're going there, you're like that. Well, what is it that I'm looking at? And I think this is really important. And it doesn't matter whether you sell services to B2B, B2C, it doesn't matter. Making sure you've got that kind of nailed, making sure that if you are sending traffic, paid or otherwise, by the way, like even if it's, Facebook posts about a very specific product, if you're talking about a product, don't send people to your homepage. If you're talking about your product, don't send people to a blog post unless it's super relevant, 5 reasons why you should use my product. But I've seen all of these mistakes, and people invariably will tell me, Facebook just doesn't work. Social media doesn't work. There's no point in writing blogs. And you're like that. Well, You know, I gotta agree with Rory on this one and say, no, you don't know how to make it work. That's not the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That is honestly, I think the biggest problem, is people just, they're so set in their ways. They want it to work the way that they're used to having it work. And again, I think that's probably a great example of why I say, we help with cold traffic. It's a totally different mindset. It's a totally different process to bring somebody into your business through cold advertising than any other channel that you have.
So what are some of the most effective ways for, especially for small businesses? Budgets are small. Everyone's struggling, let's say in 2020, especially
Yeah.
because the world is a little bit upside down. But what are some of the crucial ways or the best ways that you've seen in the past that people can implement to try and at least start exploring some cold traffic?
So yeah, I think honestly, we're going to go back to really, really the basics. And I'm going to set the stage by saying, a lot of people talk about just how easy ads are. The people who usually say that are the ones who are selling a training on how to get rich with Facebook ads or something.
And they have a
There's
Lambo in
nothing
the background.
Yeah, right. There's nothing easy about paid traffic. In fact, we take the exact opposite approach. It is my belief, after 7 years of running paid traffic and I think 232 different offers in God knows how many different industries, it's safe to say that paid traffic is the riskiest thing you can do in your business. The great thing is it can be the most rewarding thing in your business, but you need to know going in it's risky. And you need to know going in that any money you spend, especially at the beginning, could be the same as lighting it on fire, going up in smoke. There's no guarantee you're going to get a return. So everybody out there saying 2x, 4x, 10x, 100x, 3,000% ROI, just take that and throw it out because it's nonsense. It's the equivalent of taking a picture in front of a Lamborghini that you don't own so that you look cool, but you're full of it. And then the question becomes, well, geez, should I even bother getting into paid traffic? Yes, you absolutely should. Like I said, it can be, the most rewarding thing in the world when you figure it out. So now it comes down to, how do you get started? Well, the first thing we want to do is figure out how much money do you have to spend, or ultimately, how much money do you have to lose? And why do we ask that question? Well, now you know how to minimize exposure. You know how much money you're going to spend. You know how you're comfortable. Before you even turned on the ads, you go, I can spend $500 and not worry about it. Awesome. Great. You've got $500 to spend. And then people will automatically, well, is $500 enough? Doesn't matter if it's enough. It's what you've got. If you want it to be more, go out and get more. Well, how? I don't know. You're a business owner. Find a way to sell more products and services, set a goal, find an affiliate partner, get a solo ad, do something, make some money, run a special. Hey, I need to come up with $5,000. It's, here's a tax bill, tax sale, whatever. Do something, come up with the money, set it aside. And again, make sure that the budget you set aside is something you are perfectly comfortable losing. In that regard, again, I just want to underscore, you're minimizing risk by doing this. And the good thing is, you're never really going to throw away your money. You're never going to just throw it into paid ads, turn it on, and not get anything back. You're going to get data. That's the next thing, right? So number one, come up with, number one, are you even ready to run paid traffic? And I'm talking mindset right now. Are you ready? Do you have the money? Do you know the numbers in your business? What is a lead worth to you? What is a customer worth to you? How quickly does someone buy from you? What's your sales cycle? All of those things you need to know. That's how you start to piece together, can I run paid traffic? And then you figure out, all right, well, if I've got $500, what do I want? Well, if you're selling a $5,000 product, is $500 enough? No, probably not. You're not going to acquire a customer of a $5,000 product for $500 or less in most cases, especially at the beginning. So now you go, all right, what can I do to get the most bang for my buck? Well, can we do lead gen? Can I build an email list? Yeah. Can you do it with $500? Absolutely. Well, if I get an email list and I get leads, I'm not making any sales. What am I getting back? Well, you're earning the right to follow up with those people and talk to them and have conversations. The first thing you really focus on is, do I know my audience? Do I know how to target them? Do I have a good ad copy? Do I have good creative, an image or a video to move someone to a landing page? We talked about that. So your initial thing is really just data collection. And again, in my opinion, if you go out knowing that you're going to lose your money, the only thing you can do is win, because you're going to get a tremendous amount of data. If you take your last $500 and go, oh my God, this is the last thing, like, should I pay my rent? Or my buddy told me I can 5X my money in 30 days or less using Facebook ads. Don't do it. Pay your rent, figure out a way to come up with some more money, because you're not getting it back. I mean, there's a good chance. I shouldn't say you're not. There's a good chance.
It is that all important, especially at the beginning, right? We're doing a strategy at the moment. It involves about 10, 12 different target audiences that we're going to test the hypotheses. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
They're in a space where there's no real competition, which is great. It's a blue ocean strategy kind of moment, which is fantastic, except for the fact that it means we've got no idea. Like the target audience might be predominantly women. It might be predominantly men. It might, I don't know, could be young people, it could be old people, but literally we don't know until we've tested these kind of criteria. And we'll have these hypotheses and we guesstimate to the best of our possible, best of our abilities. But it is just that, it's a guesstimate. There's no guarantees. Yeah. And what's interesting actually is that another agency told them a potential cost per acquisition. They gave them a fixed number. This is roughly what it will cost you. And I was sat there going, cool, like you should definitely work with them. I'm not going to get involved, right? It's so easy to pull a number out. And I was like, I'll pull a number out. Mine's 4X what they said, because I think they're full of shit. And I don't think they really understand necessarily just how much education you're going to have to do in part of your ads and part of your content and part of everything that you're going to do to try and make sure that people even understand what you are. Because, you can't use those good old fashioned, oh, I'm the Uber of X or I'm the Airbnb of Y. So I think that's really important. And again, you're not losing the money, right? It's the old Thomas Edison kind of about the light bulb. I found 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb, right? And that's what we're trying to do. And every marketer, if they were honest or more honest or less worried about ego or presence or anything else, would say the same thing to all their clients. I can guesstimate to the best of my ability with 12 years knowledge behind me, running many campaigns. I've worked in all different sort of industries. In my opinion, I think this will potentially work and this will potentially work and this will potentially work. But the market will tell me what works and what doesn't.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. Spot on.
Rory, listen, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I have a funny feeling that we're going to be hopefully inviting you back at some point in the next year. Really quickly, Great. How can people find you online? How people can connect with you online and make sure that they can carry on the conversation if they need to?
Well, the best way to find me is on Facebook. I believe, let's see, we've got a company page, which is RFS Digital Media. RFS Digital Media is our company Facebook page. You can connect with my business page, Rory F. Stern. Personal friends, I don't really request anymore because I can't deal with all the BS from people who want to sell me stuff just because they send me a friend request. Not that I'm saying your people would do that. And if you'd like to learn more about us, you can check us out at rfsdigitalmedia.com.
Yeah, really quick one. I've said this 100 times. If you're going to get in touch with a guest, get in touch with them. Ask them a question if you need to, or something that's tangible, and make sure that you don't waste somebody's time. When somebody's willing to help, and I think Rory would be, you need to make it easy for them to reply. Don't get into a long-winded conversation. And if you're one of those people that connects with somebody and tries to pitch them straight away, go to hell. That's all I can say. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes, so much
I'm done. On LinkedIn, I've started replying to people to explain to them how poor their lead generation technique is. Rory, thank you so much for coming on today. Really enjoyed the conversation. take care of yourself and stay safe. And hopefully we'll see you
Thank
back
you.
on the show soon.
Would love to. Thank you so much.